In the previous episode, D. N. A. showed us why wild pigs in America can develop into giant monsters, the mechanism of hybrid vigor between pure European wild boars and domestic pigs explained all their muscle power and aggression. But that discovery was only the beginning. The truly terrifying part comes when you take that same biological formula and place it inside a tropical country. Imagine this: a place with no sub-zero snowstorms to hold the herds back, food available all year round, and millions of hectares of dense forest where they can easily hide. That worst-case scenario is now sweeping across Brazil. Here, this animal carries a different name: Javaporco. This is no longer a story about how large an animal can become. This is a survival war for an entire nation facing a biological machine that knows how to learn from the very people trying to destroy it. Do you think the muscle power of a 200-kilogram monster is the scariest thing? No. Their real weapon is far more terrifying, and I will reveal it in the very next part. Watch closely. This disastrous story began with a seemingly harmless but extremely arrogant human idea in the early 20th century. At that time, in Europe, Asia, and North Africa, pure wild boars were part of a balanced ecosystem. They were held in check by harsh winters and giant predators such as wolves, bears, and jaguars. But humans wanted exotic meat and sport hunting trophies in South America. In 1904, Argentina officially recorded the importation of wild boars, followed later by Uruguay. But there was one bitter truth: nature has never respected the borders humans draw on maps. These wild boars quickly crossed borders and moved straight into Brazilian territory. And there, they realized they had just entered a true paradise. Let us make a small comparison. In the United States or Canada, sub-zero cold snaps and snowstorms that freeze the ground act as a natural break, killing weak piglets and limiting population explosions. But in Brazil, a warm tropical climate all year round, no falling snow to freeze them to death, and no grey wolf packs hunting them down. When interest in sport hunting declined, abandoned wild boar farms left thousands of animals escaping or being deliberately released into nature. And that was the moment the disaster began. Pure wild boars are powerful but reproduce poorly. Domestic pigs are weaker but reproduce like machines. When these two forms mated freely in Brazil's forests, the Javaporco was born. If you had been a wildlife manager in the early 20th century, could you have predicted that releasing a few wild boars would create a national-scale invasion? Leave your opinion in the comments below. I really want to know what you think. The problem is not only that they arrived in Brazil. The problem is that Brazil seems designed to help them multiply out of control. But their huge size or sharp tusks are not what leave experts helpless. The truth lies in their brains. If an animal relies only on muscle power, humans with firearms will eventually win. But the Javaporco has a secret weapon: social intelligence, and the ability to evolve survival tactics. They do not live alone. Javaporcos operate in large herds called varas. The most interesting thing is that the leader of the herd is not the biggest, strongest male, but the oldest female, the matriarch. Like an elephant, this old sow carries a mental map of the entire area in her head. She knows exactly which stream has not dried up, which hillside has mushrooms, and more chillingly, she knows where hunters placed traps last week. The Javaporco's ability to learn has stunned biologists. They have long-term memory. If one member of the herd is caught in a cage trap, all the others will observe, remember, and teach one another how to avoid that metal structure forever. You change the trap? They will learn how to solve that too. And it does not stop there. To deal with human gunfire, this animal has changed its own biological clock. Once they realized that humans usually hunt during the day, entire Javaporco herds immediately shifted into nighttime activity. Beneath the dense canopies of South America, they become invisible ghosts, moving silently through the darkness and leaving only the traces of destruction behind the next morning. When cornered, Instead of fleeing like timid domestic pigs, they choose to attack back. Countless cases have recorded Javaporcos knocking humans down and attacking them, even causing fatal wounds with tusks that self-sharpen like sickles. These tusks constantly rub against each other whenever they chew, forming perfect surgical blades. Their charge is not a bite. It is a slash straight into a person's thigh. Their intelligence turns Javaporcos into invisible guerrilla armies deep in the forest. But what they do to nature is the scene of a real crime. Do not look away, because the next part will show you how they are strangling Brazil's ecosystem. By now, you may be thinking, all right, they are just oversized pigs eating farmers' corn. No, the reality is far more brutal. The arrival of the Javaporco is pushing Brazil's native ecosystem toward the edge of collapse. Look at South America's native wild pig-like species, such as the collared peccary and the white-lipped peccary. Although they look somewhat like pigs, they belong to an entirely different family and are much smaller in size. When Javaporcos appear in large herds, they become ruthless bullies. They steal food, occupy territory, and carry pathogens that native species have never developed antibodies against. But the greatest destruction happens in places camera lenses rarely reach inside the heart of the forests. Like other pigs, Javaporcos do not have sweat glands. To cool down in Brazil's scorching heat, they must wallow in mud. But what happens if there is no mud? They create it themselves. These giant herds aggressively charge into small streams and the purest groundwater springs of old-growth forests, tearing them apart. In only a few days, a crystal-clear stream can be turned into a thick, polluted mud pit. This creates a deadly domino effect. Mud-choked streams suffocate amphibians, small fish die in large numbers, and thirsty predators have nowhere left to drink. They directly choke off the lifeblood of the forest. And that is not all. The Javaporco's snout is as hard as a steel-plated shovel. They plow up the ground, searching for roots, mushrooms, and earthworms. This process works like a giant plow ripping apart the vegetation layer. The eggs of ground-nesting birds such as rheas and quails are crushed and eaten without mercy. Wherever Javaporcos pass through, Brazil's biodiversity falls into panic. They push many native species toward local extinction. Trees are torn up, birds are killed, and water sources are poisoned. These damages can be seen with the naked eye. But there is an invisible ticking bomb called national security waiting in the shadows, and if it explodes, billions of dollars from Brazil could vanish overnight. The Javaporco is not only an environmental disaster, it is also one of the worst nightmares for the macroeconomy. Why? Because it is the perfect biological bridge between the wild world and the civilized world. At night, they hunt deep in the forest, but by dawn, they break into cattle feeding troughs or industrial pig barns to steal food. This cross-contact carries a deadly reservoir of disease. Javaporcos can carry rabies, tuberculosis, leptospirobacteria, and brucellosis. But the real terror has two names: foot and mouth disease, and classical swine fever. You need to know one extremely important fact. Brazil is currently one of the largest beef and pork exporters on the planet, supplying millions of tons of meat to the United States, Europe, and Asia every year. The country has spent decades and enormous amounts of money on vaccination and disease control to earn international veterinary safety certifications. Now imagine a Javaporco infected with foot and mouth disease rubbing against a cow on a farm. Instantly, the virus spreads. Once that news gets out, trade borders across the world, from China to the United States, would immediately close to all meat from Brazil. The collapse of this supply chain would not only bankrupt farmers, but also strike a fatal blow to the national economy, with estimated losses reaching billions of dollars. That is why the war against the Javaporco is no longer just about farmers protecting their cornfields. It is a matter of national security. When pushed against the wall, the Brazilian government had to introduce a law unlike anything in its history. They unleashed a special force to confront the monster. A bloody clash between humans, armored hunting dogs, and wild boars began. Facing the risk of collapse, in 2013, the Brazilian government was forced to break decades of conservation principles. Hunting wild animals had long been a serious non-bailable crime in the country, but the Javaporco became the only legalized exception. The environmental agency IBAMA officially gave the green light, giving birth to a force known as the controllers. Make no mistake, this was not a recreational hunting sport for the rich. They were frontline disaster cleanup fighters, a desperate effort to slow down extinction. But entering the deep forest to hunt Javaporcos is like stepping into a minefield. In dense tropical forests, the advantage of visibility belongs entirely to the pigs. The most experienced hunters have told chilling stories about this animal's cunning. When they realize they are being pursued, male boars often pretend to panic and run away, deliberately luring hunting dogs and pursuers into swamps or dangerous terrain. Then, at speeds of up to 50 km per hour, they suddenly turn around and launch a counterattack, causing countless tragic accidents for inexperienced hunters. To survive, the control force must use modern technology. Tracking dogs can no longer wear only an ordinary collar. They are dressed in armor, woven from Kevlar fiber, and fitted with GPS collars. Why? Because with just one swing of the head from a boar's razor-sharp tusk, even a large hunting dog can be killed instantly. Imagine holding a hunting rifle, standing in the forest at night, while in front of you a hybrid pig weighing more than 200 kilograms is charging at 50 kilometers per hour. Would you stay calm enough to pull the trigger? Share how you would feel in the comments. Even more frightening, Javaporcos evolve a kind of biological armor around the shoulder area. The combination of extremely thick skin, fat, and hardened dried mud forms a shield 5 centimeters thick. This is completely different from hunting wild hogs in the fields of Texas, where bullets can easily penetrate. Facing Javaporcos in Brazil is another story. Many ordinary rifle rounds that hit their shoulders simply slide off the mudshell without reaching the internal organs. It is a dangerous, bloody, exhausting guerrilla war. So can Brazil, with legalized hunting and modern weapons, win this war of national defense? Just like Australia once failed disastrously against the reproductive speed of wild rabbits, Brazil has permanently missed the golden window to eradicate the Javaporco. With their current numbers reaching into the millions, this malignant tumor has metastasized across more than 800 cities and towns, casting its shadow from the pampa grasslands to the vast Pantanal wetlands. The government's goal now is no longer eradication, but stopping the bleeding. They can only use bullets to restrain the growth of this population, trying to prolong the breathing space of the ecosystem and protect agriculture from total destruction. Viewed more deeply, the arrival of the Javaporco is not just an ordinary ecological mistake. It is the clearest proof of the price humans pay when we give ourselves the right to interfere with the laws of nature. Uprooting a species from one continent and moving it to another for greed and entertainment accidentally created a Frankenstein of the animal world. When we break the balance, nature uses these very hybrid creatures to answer back. But the most chilling scenario still lies ahead. If millions of these biological machines break through the final defensive line and flood into the very core of the Amazon rainforest, the most complex yet fragile ecosystem on Earth, what will happen? Could that be the fatal knife strike that finishes off the planet's green lung? What do you think about humans destroying nature with their own hands by moving species from one place to another? Leave your thoughts below. And here is a terrifying truth for you. While the people of Brazil are still struggling against giant armored pigs, another mysterious invasive creature has quietly begun its own invasion. If you want the channel to make part 3 and reveal this mysterious monster, do not hesitate to let us know in the comments. Remember to hit like, share this video to warn everyone, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel to watch the next exclusive footage. Goodbye, and see you again.